Ladies and gentlemen, it is happening. The streets of Portland, once ruled by masked radicals, are now flooded with patriots who have had enough. For years, Antifa, they ran wild, torching buildings, silencing dissent, attacking journalists, even turning downtown Portland into a war zone. But tonight, that era is over because President Donald J. Trump's new task force on domestic extremism just dropped the hammer. That's right. So for the first time ever, federal investigators are publicly linking Antifa to organized terror networks. Kristi Noem is not holding back either. In fact, she's comparing them directly to ISIS, saying that these aren't activists. These are ideological soldiers that are hell-bent on tearing down America from the inside out. And as that truth explodes across the headlines, the MAGA movement is already answering the call. We've got veterans, business owners, even retired law enforcement patriots from across the country. They have converged together as one on Portland, not with violence, but with courage, to defend ICE, defend order, and defend the America that they love. Now, here's the twist that the media will not tell you. While the left screams fascism, Trump's team is quietly tracking the money, following every dollar that funds this chaos. And the trail leads to some very familiar names. So stick with me, guys, because what is unfolding right now isn't a protest. It is a reckoning. Hit the like button, subscribe. The footage doesn't lie. In fact, for years, we've seen Antifa ruling Portland streets like a mob. Black masks, spray paint, chaos, fear, right? Businesses boarded up, families fled, and the city became a playground for radicals while the city officials looked the other way. Federal buildings burned down, police were ambushed, and small business owners begged for help that never came. Portland was dying, not from lack of potential, but from lack of a backbone in leadership. But now that tide has turned. Patriots have arrived, not with Molotovs, but with megaphones, conviction, and the American flag. Veterans, off-duty officers, small business owners, real Americans are marching shoulder to shoulder to defend their city, their police, and their future. So what began outside the ICE facility has now become a symbol of resistance. Antifa's once unchallenged dominance is now gone. Now, for the first time, guys, for the first time, the black-clad agitators found themselves outnumbered and outwilled. Patriots blocked their riots, stood between them and federal officers, and refused to back down. Guys, the silence of ordinary Americans has broken, and Portland has become ground zero and a national awakening. The message is clear. The streets no longer belong to the mob. They belong to the people. Now, Governor Kristi Noem, she said it plainly. Antifa is America's domestic ISIS. Now, that comparison right there, guys, that one sent shockwaves, but look closer and it's undeniable. The organized cells, the encrypted communication, the black masked uniform, the targeted assaults on police stations and government property. It's not activism. It is ideological warfare, the kind that's meant to destabilize a nation from within. Now, for years, Democrats dismissed Antifa as a myth. They called it an idea, not an organization. But what kind of idea hurls bricks at officers, blinds journalists, and sets courthouses on fire, right? What kind of idea extorts fear and obedience from small business owners while trying to survive? That is not dissent. This is insurgency. Now, Kristi Noem's warning echoed across America, and President Trump, he heard it loud and clear. The administration is now treating Antifa like the terror network that it's always been, unlocking new surveillance and funding tracking powers in order to dismantle it piece by piece. So just like ISIS, Antifa thrives in chaos and anonymity until the light exposes it. Now, the new classification changes everything, okay? What it means now is accountability. It means no more hiding behind the slogans. It means the radical left's domestic foot soldiers, they're now finally being called what they really are: terrorists waging war on America. Now, here's the problem with Medicare, okay? Your plan might look fine right now, but next year, it could explode with higher costs or lost doctors. Now, Medicare premiums are set to rise next year, and many Medicare Advantage plans are disappearing altogether. Now, for seniors that are watching the show right now, I already know what you're dealing with: nonstop robocalls, texts, and even junk mail about Medicare during annual enrollment. It's overwhelming, and honestly, it probably makes you just want to kind of tune it all out and just stick with your current plan and forget it, right? I get it. I totally do. This is why I part them with Chapter, though. They defuse the time bomb by reviewing your Medicare coverage before it blows up in your face. And one of our viewers, she said, I had no idea my Medicare plan was changing until Chapter warned me about it. So let me ask you, Are you going to wait for the explosion, or are you going to do what most people are already doing and diffuse it early? Now, most people are dialing that phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. Now, here's where things get real serious. Under President Trump's direct order, the Task Force on Domestic Extremism, it has zeroed in on Antifa's financial networks. And what they already found is shaking Washington to its core. Now, for years, these so-called grassroots activists, they've claimed to be broke, local, and disorganized, right? But subpoenas and digital forensics are telling a completely different story. Money trails leading to nonprofit shell groups, anonymous crypto wallets, and even foreign-backed foundations. Sources inside of the investigations are saying that agents are tracing funds through layers of NGOs and donor-advised funds. I'm talking about the same pipelines that quietly fuel radical organizations across the globe. And when investigators start pulling those threads, well, the same names keep popping up. I'm talking about far-left donors, tech executives, and political operatives who have more influence than accountability. Now, this is not about isolated protests anymore, folks. This is about a coordinated network financed by elites who hide behind social justice branding, okay? Trump's DOJ is now demanding full transparency, and Congress is being forced to confront a question that they never wanted to ask. What if the real threat is not on foreign soil? But what if it's bankrolled right here at home? The days of hiding behind tax-exempt status are over. The audit has begun. So while President Trump's task force follows the money, conservative media is following the truth. From independent journalists on the ground to Portland to viral digital outlets across X and YouTube, the MAGA media machine, it's doing what legacy news refuses to expose. It's exposing the chaos in real time. In fact, reporters once targeted by Antifa are now armed with evidence, phishing footage, receipts, and whistleblower accounts that dismantle the left's narrative of peaceful protest. Forgot the air quotes. So this is asymmetric warfare. The left controls mainstream airwaves, but patriots dominate the digital battlefield. So it's not about censorship anymore. Now it's about exposure. So when footage of masked agitators attacking veterans or business owners goes viral, it destroys the media's protective cover. Every share, every clip, every retweet becomes a weapon against deception. So Trump's allies and new media platforms are uniting together. We are uniting together, and we're forming what some are calling the Information Patriot Network. Their mission? Counter Antifa propaganda, amplify truth, and build a narrative wall that's stronger than any establishment can tear down. Now, for the first time in years, the information is no longer one-sided. The left might own CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times, but the right owns the people's microphone, and the people are done being silent. Now, if you follow the money, because of course it always tells the truth, what investigators and whistleblowers are uncovering right now about Antifa's finances looks a lot less like a protest movement and more like a shadow corporation. Now, behind the chaos are web after web of activist collectives, mutual aid groups, and nonprofits that all tie back to the same pool of donors, each one claiming independence, yet somehow every brick, every bus ticket, every bail fund seems to come from the same handful of tax-sheltered organizations. Federal analysts tracing transfers are finding multi-million-dollar flows disguised as humanitarian or educational grants. But if you peel back one more layer, and then you find consulting firms, political PACs, and international social impact organizations feeding the beast. These are not college kids making signs in a basement. This is a funded insurgency operating under the protection of charitable tax codes. So here's a real catch. The same politicians that are denouncing hate groups are the same ones approving the grants that bankroll Antifa's operations. The exposure of these financial networks really could be the biggest political scandal we've seen in decades. So when those names go public, it's not going to just collapse Antifa. It will crater the credibility of the entire progressive machine. And just when you think it couldn't get any darker, the money trail crosses borders. Investigators inside of Trump's task force are now tracking digital payments routed through overseas platforms that are tied to foreign NGOs and even hostile regimes. Intel sources have confirmed ongoing probes into possible coordination with federal actors who see Antifa as a useful tool for destabilizing America from within. Now think about that for a second, guys. Domestic radicals being weaponized by foreign adversaries to weaken our institutions, paralyze our cities, and divide our people. This is the same blueprint global agitators used during the Arab Spring and the color revolutions. But this time, it's right here. It's right under the guise of social justice. Analysts point to encrypted messaging networks and crypto-based funding wallets originating in Europe and Asia. And while Democrats are playing down the findings, the administration is not fooled by this. Trump's DHS and Treasury teams, they're working around the clock in order to expose how much of Antifa's revolution has been quietly financed by outside powers that want to see America burn down from the inside out. Now, if those links are proven, and early links suggest that they will be, this is not just going to be domestic unrest. This will be officially classified as foreign aided subversion against the United States. So the response from leadership has been thunderous. Governor Kristi Noem fired the first shot when she called Antifa what it truly is: America's domestic ISIS. Her warning wasn't symbolic. It was a wake-up call. And President Donald J. Trump, he heard it loud and clear. So within days, he authorized the expansion of federal jurisdiction to investigate, to track, to dismantle these radical organizations that are operating inside the United States under fake nonprofit umbrellas. Now, Trump's message was blunt. We are done tolerating organized chaos. Federal task forces have been deployed, surveillance orders expanded, and cooperation between state and federal agencies is now unprecedented. Even Democratic governors facing these mounting pressures from terrorist residents, they're now being forced to reconsider their hands-off approach. But the most stunning shift that we've seen is it's in Portland itself. Leaders, local leaders who once defended Antifa as protesters, they're watching their political careers crumble under public outrage. Ordinary citizens are showing up at city council meetings, demanding resignations, demanding police protection, demanding accountability. Guys, the tide is turning here, and the establishment knows it for a fact. For the first time in years, America's leadership isn't bowing down to the mob, it's standing with the people. And so behind every headline, there is a human cost. And Portland's small business owners, they know it all too well. One bar owner, she was in tears before city council, described a nightmare: stabbings inside of her establishment, glass shattering, employees bleeding while police refused to intervene. For years, her pleas went unanswered. Every weekend brought another attack, another threat, another reminder that the city that she built her whole life in was no longer hers. Journalists like Nick Sorter faced the same brutality, assaulted on camera, pepper sprayed, and then arrested as the victim. The message was very clear: silence the witnesses, protect the radicals. Antifa operated with absolute impunity while ordinary people paid the price. Families were forced out, shops were vandalized, churches were defaced, lives shattered under the banner of justice. You can't even make this stuff up, guys. But now, the silence is broken. Business owners are speaking out. Journalists are fighting back. Videos of Antifa's attacks are spreading faster than the media can spin them, and the world is watching. Now, this isn't about left or right anymore. This is about survival. Law-abiding Americans have been terrorized, gaslit, and abandoned, but the days of fear are numbered, because when victims start to rise up, the empire of chaos begins to fall. Now, when the Patriots showed up outside of that ICE facility in Portland, it wasn't just another protest. It was a standoff for America's soul. Now, for years, federal agents had been vilified for enforcing immigration law while local officials handcuffed them politically. Antifa weaponized chaos against them, burning their buildings and threatening their families. But this time, the agents weren't alone. Standing shoulder to shoulder with them were veterans, business owners, and ordinary citizens, waving flags, voices unified. They didn't come to fight. They came to defend, to show federal officers that the American people still stand behind the rule of law. The chants of defund ICE were drowned out by something louder: protect our country. And it wasn't just symbolic. The Department of Homeland Security has now ramped up coordination between ICE, DOJ, and Trump's new anti-terror units. Now, together, they're securing federal properties, they're tracing suspects, and they're restoring the order that Portland leaders abandoned long ago. Now, for the first time in years, the uniforms that are on the street, they weren't just agents, they were allies. Now, this is proof that when government fails to defend its people, the people will rise and defend the government that's worth saving. Now, here's where it all lands, guys. And there's no middle ground left. I mean, you're either on the side of the patriots that are defending their country, or you're standing silent with the radicals who are trying to burn it down to the ground. There's no neutral zone anymore. So not when cities are under siege, when media lies daily, every single day, not when the same politicians who cheered Antifa now pretend that they never knew. This is the dividing line between chaos and civilization, between fear and freedom. The patriots in Portland aren't just defending one city, they're defending the idea of America itself. Every veteran, every mother, every business owner who stood their ground sent a message to the world. We're done hiding. So now it's your turn. Use your voice, use your vote, share the truth that the media won't show. Support the leaders who have the courage to call evil by its name, because history doesn't remember those who sat down by the sidelines. It remembers those who stood when standing was hardest. This is the moment the tide turns. The mask has fallen, the truth is out, and as of tonight, the streets are no longer belonging to the mob. They belong to we the people.